People with ADD or ADHD, what are your biggest problems related to ADD or ADHD? Disclaimer, this is not a medical diagnosis. Having these symptoms or problems alone does not mean you have ADHD. However, if you find yourself relating to some of these issues, consider setting up an appointment with a professional to get a proper diagnosis. First, what is ADHD? ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, which is a chronic condition with issues including attention difficulty, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. In this video, we will be going over comments to better understand what people who have ADHD face on a day-to-day basis. Not being able to do something even if you need to do it. You just can't. Executive function issues. Thinking a grocery trip is going to take the whole day, and being surprised Pikachu when it takes less than an hour. Time blindness. Being in class and then realizing you didn't get anything of what the teacher said because you were thinking about why there is so much pumpkin food in Harry Potter, when pumpkins don't really grow in Europe. Attention deficit. Thinking one little mess up ruins your life. Example, thinking someone hates you because you accidentally bumped into them in the hall. Rejection sensitive dysphoria. Intensely focusing on one subject for weeks or months at a time. Hyperfixation. Trouble sleeping, insomnia, having very high energy, hyperactivity, having emotional outbursts, emotional control issues. Not everyone with this disorder has all of these symptoms, but these are common. Constant internal monologue interrupts studying, watching TV, and even playing games. I can't vouch for anyone else, but I feel this hard. I can't ever stop thinking several things at once. For example, someone mentions watching a TV show I haven't seen, like Squid Game. I'll imagine a large group of squids, then that will turn into thinking about Finding Nemo. Then I'll think of Ellen DeGeneres, and I'll think of Rosie O'Donnell, then Disney's Tarzan, then Wayne Knight, then I'll get on the thought of I wonder how he lost all that weight, and then I'll actually ask that thought out loud assuming the other person was thinking along that same path. Now, think of that, but all the time. It's absolutely exhausting. I've never seen this described so perfectly. My wife asked me to explain what I feel when I get distracted. I told her it's like thinking of a million things at once. I can read a word like Transformer and start thinking about the movies. Then I'll think of Shia LaBeouf, which will make me think of his Disney show, Even Stevens. Then I'll start thinking about the shows on the channel from my childhood. Then my brain thinks of another word, and I'm off on a completely different tangent. It's worse with music. I'll hear a guitar lick and go, oh, that reminds me of this band, and put that band on, and that cycle takes a while to stop too. Anybody else with ADHD ever have that feeling where there is so much to do, but you can't bring yourself to do anything? Like, you just sit around thinking about how much you have to do. Executive dysfunction team unite. I will waste hours scrolling on my phone while internally screaming at myself to go wash the damn dishes that will only take 5 minutes, but I just can't get up. Holding patterns. For example, if I work at 12:30, I can't do anything for the day until I go to work. I have to wait to go to work. Medication has helped that, but sometimes I slip back into a holding pattern and do absolutely nothing until it's time to leave. My wife will tell me I should get up earlier for work so I have time to sit before I have to go. I have to tell her that my brain simply won't allow that. All it will do is give me anxiety by looking at the clock every 5 minutes saying, only X more minutes until I need to leave. I need just enough time to get ready, eat a small breakfast and leave. Anything longer will make me pace for no reason and probably give me thoughts of calling out. Time. It's weird. Telling me about an appointment in 2 days is meaningless. It's not today, so it might as well be 2 years from now. Also paralysis. If plans suddenly change, I can't do anything. I can physically do nothing until the new plan is completed. Especially with school assignments. I always forget about them. Well, technically I still remember them. It's just at the back of my mind, until the last minute. Hyperfixation. If I'm into something, it's staying that way at least for a couple weeks, and I will try to learn everything I can about it. Life is bloody hard on so many levels. The crazy ideas that go nowhere, the buying into ideas and hobbies you drop instantly, the sky high highs and lows of relationships burn most normal people out. The inability not to be reactive to situations and the emotions that come with it is a constant problem, especially as a guy. Most people take for granted planning and executive functions, but that's broken with ADHD, so constantly forgetting and putting stuff off, or just blind to doing the things that are important short, medium, and long term. I know what I need to do but just can't, so it's chaos and deadline chasing all the time. Then the F at risk taking that other just think you're crazy, and the ADHD brain thinks it's great fun. It's great in your teens and 20s if it doesn't unalive you, but catastrophic as you get older. Having ADHD in my 30s is the worst. I'm never taken seriously and I struggle a lot. I see my peers succeed around me and I feel stagnant. Also, I completely agree with dealing with strange emotions. I couldn't cry at my grandparents' funeral, but will randomly think of them and I burst into tears. It ruins my life in small ways every day. There's a profound mental discomfort when doing something your brain doesn't want to do, if you're medicated. It's genuinely mentally taxing to do things that are boring, even if there's something you want to be doing. Now, this is better than when you're unmedicated, where it's simply impossible to push through and force yourself to do them at all. Something that hasn't been mentioned anywhere is the depression. ADHD inherently messes with your reward system, and in doing so, can in and of itself be a cause for depression, specifically one that looks similar to persistent depressive disorder with depressive episodes. Many ADHD symptoms are actually persistent depressive symptoms, or made worse by the depression involved. It's also often comorbid with anxiety, which can be governed by similar mechanisms to depression, though not always. Though it can be influencer enough of anxiety without inherently causing it, you fundamentally think and act differently from others, and the world isn't built to your scale. Also, it's practically impossible for me, and other ADHDers I know, to form habits. Even if you do something at the same time every day, if you accidentally miss a day, chances are you'll miss the next few too. It's a conscious effort to do things on a daily basis, especially hygiene. Shout out to dental hygiene, I promise I really do try. Dopamine deficiency. No matter what impulsive shit you do, you're always just one drop short of a full tank. Needing to get work done but constantly finding myself far away from it. Like I concentrate for 10 minutes, then something in my work reminds me of that time we went and played Ding Dong Ditch. Where did the word ditch come from? Then a blur, then I realize while I'm outside checking my oil that I should be inside getting my work done. Also self-medicating. Drinking caffeine because it stimulates me and helps me concentrate and get things done faster, when I should probably be on Adderall, but I'm scared of what it can do to my heart. Drinking and smoking weed heavy because I thought they were miracle potions that turned me into a social butterfly, but they made me lose all control and I really should have been taking anxiety medication. Hyper-focusing on things that stimulate me and forgetting what time it is as hours go by, and I should have left 10 minutes ago. The biggest one for me is sleep. I cannot get my mind to be quiet long enough to fall asleep when I need to, i.e. having to sleep for work the next day, and as a result, I'm tired all the fucking time. When I was medicated, it was such a game changer, I couldn't believe it. The other big one I find is focusing on tasks that don't have a dopamine payoff. Mundane stuff like schoolwork or even basic chores that need to be done have no reward payoff to me, so I'll push them off or have to force myself into doing them somehow. I hyper-focus on intrusive thoughts about social situations from my past, a lot. It contributes to my social anxiety, and I'll often go down a shame spiral before realizing that it's fine and no one else remembers it. I also have to remind myself that the thought that everyone hates me is also just social anxiety, and rejection dysphoria. I also struggle with inertia. I'll walk past the same mess 15 times and say hey I'll clean that up after dinner, before bed, tomorrow morning, after work, maybe the weekend. Until I realize how stupid that is and take the 2 minutes to hang up the jackets that are hanging off a chair. Very annoying. I am annoyed with myself constantly. Structure, keeping my place clean, getting to appointments on time, routines, planning. Lack of motivation and inability to follow through on projects that takes time, repetition or focus. Constantly compensating for dopamine deficiency by never being able to sit still, seeking rushes through sex, shopping, risky behaviors etc. Inability to focus on things like conversations or studies. Stress and low energy. Horrible short-term memory. Awareness. 1 minute my husband is stopping me before walking into a busy street, the next I'm hunched over the vent at home using a paintbrush to get the dust off of it. I'm either not aware of anything or too aware of one thing. Brain bees, or brain aspids for you Hollow Knife fans. It literally feels like my brain is buzzing. When it buzzes just right, I can focus. But when the bees are angry, I want to scream. Literally everything is a distraction. I want to do a thing, I set up my environment to try to do the thing, I sit down to do the thing. But my brain goes nah, I want to do literally anything else. Clothes shopping. Some clothes and fabrics I won't even touch because of how they make me feel. Last time I wore tights, I wanted to claw my legs off. Rambling in tangents. I start talking about one thing, then it leads to another and soon I have to retract back to my original point. Mental fatigue and burnout. If I don't take a brain break during the day, I have a harder time functioning in the evening. Learning that my entire childhood and most of my adulthood were substantially more difficult than it needed to be. It was a relief to see what medication could do for me, but also heart-wrenching knowing how much I've struggled, failed, and had to adjust my life for these failures, could be attributed to my folks just never even asking if I did have anything. My biggest problem by far, isn't even the disorder, but the failure to respond to it my whole life. I couldn't understand why I could read a page of a book but not internalize any of it. Why studying and flashcards didn't work. Why I would be so interested in something and then immediately lose interest in it for months after. Why I always had to fidget with something in the car on a trip, or bounce my leg, or just rummage through a friend's closet when we were kids because, reasons? Now that I'm aware, even if I don't have medication I can be consciously thinking about it and still make some better choices that help me. But yeah, by far, the biggest problem was not even knowing. If you liked this video, or found it informative, please hit the like button and subscribe. I will be doing more videos like this in the future. Thank you for watching.